Welcome back to the Rusty Pipes Week 5 Power Rankings. We are now officially quarter of the way through our season, both NFL and fantasy, and we'll get right into it. Coming in at number 1 in the rankings, we have Baby Back Gibbs, owned by Smiley. This team just looks outright unstoppable right now. After an impressive win last week over Russ, in which Smiley put up 170 points, this team should revert back to its Run CMC team name, because that's who this team runs through. As CMC is the overall running back one in fantasy this year after another dominating 4-touchdown performance over the Arizona Cardinals, in which he put up 36 fantasy points for Smiley, leading them to that win. And Smiley is still the team to beat. It'll be a wonder if anyone will. I mean, he's got great depth. He's got a good quarterback, Justin Herbert, obviously, CMC. Impressive team all around. The number 2 team in the rankings belongs to the reigning champ, El Cabo, owned by Cobb, who is still undefeated this year with a record of 4-0. With the resurgence of Jamar Chase and the breakout of Nico Collins, our Michigan man, this team has a strong wide receiver core along with Michael Pittman on the Colts. If Cobb wants to stay on top, though, he needs to get healthy, which includes Austin Eckler returning after his bye week this week, back to the starting lineup. But to help fill that running back gap, he found Jamal Williams 2.0 in David Montgomery, as he not only scores a shit ton of touchdowns, but he gets the yardage to go along with it. Next to the rankings, we have Live Laugh Facebook, owned by Carson. Carson continues his hot streak with a win last week over Schultz, improving him to 3-1. But while he did get the win, he did put up an abysmal 97 points, not as abysmal as Schultz's score, but we'll get to that later. His 97-point performance, though, it was very surprising, saying as he was coming off a 204-point dominating win the week prior. But Carson did have a 36-point performance from Stephon Diggs, showing that he does have a bright spot in that win. He'll need more consistency in his lineup if he wants to win this week against a stingy Juicy Bear team that's still looking for their first win. They're going to scrap, they're going to claw. They'll be like Dan Campbell in his first year with Detroit. They may not win a ton of games, but they'll be damned that if you get an easy win on them. They'll bite your kneecaps off, folks. Watch out. The number 4 rank goes to Parlay Melee, owned by Reed, who's coming off an easy win over Shazimler's List. Even with Deebo Samuel scoring 0.6 points, awful week for him, but Reed still put up 150 points on the back of Josh Allen and Mark Andrews, scoring a combined 75 points, because I think Josh Allen was close to 50, around 45 or 50 if I remember correctly. Reed is now sitting at 3-1, and it has put the league on notice that he might have the best bench in the league with guys like C.J. Stroud, Terry McLaurin, and Tyler Lockett sitting there ready to jump in and ruin someone's week when he thinks that Reed has his stars on bye. No. These guys can be starters on any other team, and they will perform like it. With our number 5 ranking, we have Josh. Josh is another 3-1 team who's looking good so far this year after a win over Not So Dangerous last week. He got another great game out of A.J. Brown with a good 36-point performance in that overtime win over the Washington Commanders. And he hopes that Brown can continue this his refound dominance. Josh's only issue right now is inconsistent play from Geno Smith and Joe Mixon, 2 veterans that he hoped would perform better this year after they had strong years last year. And he'll need both of them to figure it out if he wants to compete with the top teams for the championship. Guys like Smiley and Cobb and Carson, they take advantage of those struggling players, and they use them against you by using their own, dominating, and knocking you out of the playoffs. Our number 6 ranking belongs to Suck My Wake, owned by Chris Ritchie. Sitting at 2-2, Ritchie is struggling for anything at running back. He's grasping, he's clawing for anything that he can get his hands on. He has a great trio of wide receivers with Jay Jettas, Drake London, as long as Arthur Smith gets him the ball. And a revived Adam Thielen. Don't know how he's putting up the numbers, but he is. But with Zeke as your running back too, it's not a championship roster. You can't have a backup running back or a handcuff running back being in your starting lineup like that without the starter being out himself. So all I'm saying is, Richie, if you want to win, I suggest you really get into the trade talks for a starting caliber running back, in which I hear King Henry is available on Shazimler's List. Schultz takes the number 7 spot in the rankings, coming off an abysmal performance last week, putting up a weekly low of 64 points. Would be a yearly low for the league had Russ. Someone put 53 points up. I can't remember who. But I could be wrong. I could be thinking of another league I'm in, but still 64 points, very low total. nothing could go Schultz's way, but he's not down and out yet. He's still got Pat Mahomes, Chris Olave, and T.J. Hawkinson in his lineup. All those guys can have major not breakouts because they're already dominant, but they just had low weeks. Hawkinson's still tight end one in fantasy right now. Olave is still a great 15-plus point receiver, and Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes. He'll put up points when he wants and when he needs to. And all of them are still dangerous as ever. I expect a bounce-back week for Schultz next week. Number 8 ranking goes to Not So Dangerous, owned by Michael. It was a respectable but dull week for Michael as he took an L against Josh, but has some good performances from his stars like Puka Nacua, a newly acquired running back in Josh Jacobs, who put up a nice 27-point performance in the loss against the Chargers, and Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson having that great comeback win over Chicago, put up a good 28 points for him. But with every other player scoring 6 or less, I think Ramondre Stevenson had 6 points and everyone else was 3 or less. I think the only other player that was above that was his defense with 4. So, it's just not a good look right now. He's got to have his players refined how they actually need to score points. Tank Dell, down week. Amari Cooper, down week. But I expect both those guys to bounce back. They're good receivers. Stroud is feeding them the ball for Dell and Watson. He was out this week, so I expect when he comes back after the bye, Cooper will be just fine. This team does need to find the consistency, though, and fast, or it may be another lost season for this young coach. Our number 9 ranking goes to Drone Tree Trimmer, owned by Jay. Secured his first win last week against Juicy Baron, which I forgot to mention in the predictions video. That was matchup of the week. I am going to start letting you guys know which ones I feel are the matchups we want to focus the most on. And if I can, I'll try and get one-on-one interviews, or I'll interview both the managers at the same time for the matchups of the week. But yeah, it was a toilet bowl. Both managers looking for their first win. Jay came out on top. It was all-around solid performance from Jay. No one really shined. They all performed at what was expected of them, except Isaiah Pacheco. 24-point game. Nice 115 touchdown game against the Jets. He'll look to build on this with this performance in hopes that his Packers players continue to develop with guys like Christian Watson coming back from injury now, Jordan Love, and I think he's got Dobbs, if I can't remember. Or he's got Musgrave. I do know that. Coming in at number 10, it's been a rough ride for Russ since week 1. He had that nice win over Shazimler's List. That was easy going. But he falls to 1-3 now on a 3-game losing streak as he sits at number 10 in the rankings and number 10 in the standings. And while he did break 100 this last week, he was no match for Smiley, who put up that 170. While the emergence of Devon Achane is a delight for Russ, players like Jalen Waddle and Tony Pollard struggle to gain stride and consistency this year and are a big reason why Russ is in this hole. This week's outcome may have Russ wondering if it's time to sell, if it's time to maybe make a few trades, because he's got pieces to make a run in the playoffs, but it's if he wants to sell or if he wants to buy and risk what my dad did last year and just not going anywhere. Speaking of teams that may be actually for people that don't know, my dad is Mike Moore, owner of Shazimler's List. Speaking of teams that may be selling soon, we have Juicy Bear, owned by UD, coming in at number 11 in the rankings. Nothing besides Kyron Williams and Hurts seem to be going UD's way this year. Higgins can't find a groove and is now dealing with an injury, especially with his own QB, Joe Burrow, also dealing with that calf strain. It's hurting my team right now. Thank God Russ Wilson is out there. But Aaron Jones flopped on his return from injury on Thursday Night Football. And worst of all, he spent half his fab on Josh Kelly, who is doing nothing of what we projected, especially with Eckler out and him in the starting role. It's just abysmal for him. Sitting at 0-4, UD may be the second team to sell off this year. He's got pieces to give, especially Hurts for guys that need a strong starting quarterback, or Kyron Williams for guys that want some running back depth, or even he's actually playing at a starter level right now. So, first team that'll probably sell off, though, albeit not a lot of players to sell, is Shazimler's List, owned by Mike Moore. While Mike did put up a respectable 113 last week, which was a season high for him, he lost another one, putting in at 0-4. He does have some good players on his team that can intrigue some contenders that need help. Those being a star running quarterback in Lamar Jackson, strong receiver in Christian Kirk, who's after that dud in week 1 is just being fed the football by Trevor Lawrence, and of course King Henry, who's still putting up solid performances for the Titans, even behind a shitty O-line. Who knows, maybe Mike trades Henry in fantasy and the Titans trade Henry in real life. And if that happens and he goes to a team with a better line, Henry's trade value will skyrocket. With the season already in the gutter and some young pieces to build off of and keepers such as James Williams and Marvin Mims, the biggest question for Mike is who will come calling first, willing to buy. That will be it for the Week 5 Power Rankings. I'll be back in the next video with the Week 5 Rusty Pipe predictions. Thank you.